All right. Welcome. Thank you for coming. So we're going to record this video. We will post it to our YouTube at some point very soon, likely with some chapter markers so that you can jump right to the sections that are relevant. And then I messaged everybody in the chat. Feel free to ask questions throughout the course of the night, and then give us your band name, your email address, and your Instagram, and we will make sure to send you a PDF of the PowerPoint that we're about to share. So my name is Nicolas DeGrazia. I started this crazy festival back in 2005, 2006. It has grown and evolved quite a bit. With me here tonight are Michael and Kevin. I will let them introduce themselves, and then we'll get started.
Hi everyone, my name is Michael Tseitlin. I am the Director of Education here at Bitter Jester. I've been with Bitter Jester since 2012, once as a participant, then as a judge, and now helping lead the judging forms, rubrics, and how we better give you guys feedback to grow as musicians. And stoked for our first clinic. So, hi everyone.
And I'm Kevin. I'm the music director for Bitter Jester. So basically in charge of making sure the festival has great music and that everyone's music sounds great when we're performing live. So as we get through the application, I'll talk about like the music submission process and stuff like that. And happy to answer any like music related questions in the chat as well as we go through the presentation.
All right, so without further ado, I am going to do a screen share here. You should see purple text that says, "So you want to apply to the Bitter Jester Music Festival, ... All right, I'm going to jump right in. So this is our online application clinic. It's the first time we're doing this. We're very excited. This should give you some pro tips and behind the scenes information. Not only about how to actually go through the application, and then a little bit later I'll do a screen share of the application itself, and we'll quickly type like a bogus application just so you can get a sense of it. We're also going to talk about some new things with the festival this year, go over all the dates, and then, like I said before, answer questions that y'all might have. So just a quick overview if you are new or watching this for the first time. What is the Bitter Jester Music Festival? This is an annual nonprofit music festival that was started in 2006. We are sponsored by the City of Highland Park. There are several local granting organizations that give us funds. We get some corporate sponsorships, and then small donations and things like that. And one of our favorite, relatively new corporate sponsors is Elmore Pedals. If you are unfamiliar with the Elmore Pedal, Google that, check it out. Each of the top bands will win one. And some selected solo performers will win one as well. They're fantastic, and the story behind how that product came to be is pretty cool. And the founder of that product, actually also from Highland Park, where our festival is based, and his company is based in Highland Park. We are entirely volunteer run. All the shows are free to attend, so there's no cover charge. We don't make bands pay to play. There is an application fee that's part of the application process, but that just goes to maintaining the website and the application portal, and it takes hours and hours of time to review all the applications. But the shows are free. People can come and go as they see fit, and we have never missed a show. So rain or shine, the show must go on. In terms of who is eligible to apply, we have very few criteria other than you have to sound good. And at least half of the band must be 21 years old or younger. And that's at the time that you hit send on your submission. So if you turn, if there's four of you and the third person turns 22, the day after you submit your application, you're in the clear. No single performer can be over the age of 24. And that's just to really have us focus on this being an exposition of new and up and coming and fresh young music. No restrictions in terms of genre or band size or style or type. We've had everything from solo performers to a 14-person barefoot washtub band. We've had rap artists and jazz bands and metal bands and, rock bands, of course. So it runs the gamut. And I'm going to talk a little bit later about kind of doing your homework on our festival and seeing who else has applied. if you notice that there's a tendency toward one kind of music, just understand that we have evolved and grown over the years, and we're constantly getting new types of applications submitted. So if you have a new kind of music that we've never showcased before, I'd actually say you have a good shot of getting in, because we like to have a lot of variety. Next up is, why should I apply? So this is an event that's really unlike probably any other Battle of the Bands or festival that you will likely ever be a part of. And I'm going to have Michael, who, as he said before, is our director of education, kind of walk through all of the things that you get in addition to just being a performer at our festival. So Michael, take it away.
Sweet. So there's a lot of educational value that the event gives you, and that starts with our judging panels being a complete combination of music educators, music professionals, bands that have made it, along with radio hosts, booking agents, all that. And what they're doing is they're giving you handwritten notes along with scores on all of our categories that we're judging you on, and we'll go over that in a little bit. So you get that, you get the numerical scores, you get charts and graphs, because some of us are visual learners, myself included. And then recently new, as of 4 years, Nick, I think this is year 4, I do a verbal commentary talking to you while you're playing your set, so you can hear in real time the things that are cool about your set, the things you can hear that would help you. And that happens so you can hear yourself in the background, and it's kind of cool. So you'll hear, oh, that harmony was really nice, and you'll hear exactly what I'm talking about in what moment. And you'll also hear like, oh, that drum fill could have been cooler if you did something like this, and you'll know exactly where we're going. Kevin's done a lot of work on giving you guys rough mixes of your audio from your live sets. We have multi-track recordings. Courtney and Arden, who are here, are social media gurus, and they give you some really good promotions, and they help hype up the event. You'll see access to our industry advisors, who are the pros that help us guide the event, and they'll also be resources for you to use. And then the fun ones, right? Like money, stuff, more clinics of behind the scenes things, networking with other people. The bands that Kevin and I were in a band together. So when we were in Bitter Jester, we played at WGN Radio, House of Blues, with all other bands that we met at Bitter Jester. So the networking thing is real. A lot of prizes that you can read that I'm not going to read to you, but this plus the environment of being in a professional music festival.
And the second bullet point on the right there, the music business clinics, we'll go over the schedule next. We're compressing our festival this year. Instead of doing 4 individual preliminary round Fridays, we're going to be doing 2 preliminary round weekends, where it'll be a Friday, Saturday concert, and then the next week, Friday, Saturday. And on the Saturdays in the afternoons, we're going to have a music business clinic in the afternoon that's open to all of the performers who are at Bitter Jester. We'll talk about social media, how to promote yourself, how to get, your band out there, best practices when it comes to tagging and hashtags and all that stuff, and likely also delve into tips and some helpful information on actually booking paid gigs in Chicago and elsewhere. So I think Heyman is with us, and hopefully he'll be joining us for those clinics and have some cool stuff to talk about. So next up is the dates to know, and I will turn this over to Kevin, and then we'll get into the application.
Mm-hmm. So very important thing with these dates, if you can save them in your calendar and share them with all your bandmates as soon as possible, that will really help us out, so that we're not in a situation where it's like, oh, we said we were free for this date of the concert, but it turns out half our band isn't free. So make sure to write these down, and we'll give you the PowerPoint after as well, so you'll have that to reference. But applications go live today. I believe the form will open shortly after we finish this presentation here. So you can go ahead and apply what you learned right away if you want to. The early application deadline is March 15th. So if you can submit by that date, the application fee is a little bit discounted for you if you get it in early. April 30th is the final application deadline, and then the lineup will be officially announced on May 5th, including all of the non-competition bands, such as the showcase bands and solo artists, which we'll talk about a little bit more later. On May 20th, we're going to have a virtual all band orientation. So much like this Zoom, we're just going to kind of go over the details of the event and just make sure everything's clear. There are not too many questions going in. Like in the past, we've done a all band meeting like in person the night of the preliminary rounds, which is great, and we'll probably still do that. But we just wanted to give all that information like even a little bit earlier, so it's not like the night of if you're learning about stuff, and just make sure everyone is on the same page.
And it'll shorten that all band meeting on the Fridays, which has gotten just very long. We also noticed that some of the stuff we're covering is what you're being judged on. And it's so much more valuable if you know that weeks in advance. So that will be mandatory. At least one person from each band that gets accepted, whether you're a showcase or in competition, has to attend. If you can't attend, just find someone to attend in your place and take some notes.
Mm-hmm. And our opening night concert, the first preliminary round, that's June 2nd, a Friday. And then the Saturday after that, June 3rd, that will be the second preliminary round. So we kind of have this weekend thing. You will get a chance in the application to indicate like what dates you would prefer to play your preliminary round at. Even if, for example, you put your preferred dates as the 9th and the 10th, still save June 3rd in your calendar, because like even if you're not playing that night, you're welcome to come to that music business clinic on the 3rd. And I can tell you already, that's going to be a really, really cool clinic. It's something new we're doing this year, and I think that will be something you don't want to miss. We're going to see if we can maybe find a way to record it or something, but in person is always best if you can make it. And then our night 3 concert and night 4, those are June 9th and 10th, again, with another music business clinic. It will be a different topic as well on June 10th, slightly different materials. If possible, we may change that. Then at some point after June 10th, between the 10th and the 25th, we're going to announce the wildcard bands. So the way that works is we have 4 bands that are the winners of the preliminary round nights, but we choose an additional 4 bands out of all the other bands that didn't win their Friday, or didn't win their preliminary, I should say. Out of all those bands, then we choose another 4 for wild cards. And then those 8 bands together will be the participants on the grand finale night. So that brings us to June 25th, which is going to be our grand finale this year. We're changing the date this year just due to the tragedy in Highland Park on the 4th last year. We just wanted to see if we can explore something a little bit different. And we ended up on a really cool opportunity this year to play at the Taste of Highland Park Festival. So it's going to be really awesome. There's going to be a lot of food vendors and a ton of people there for that. So we think that's going to be really cool for the finale.
Yeah, and if you've done this event in the past, you can let your parents know that there will be Ravinia Brewing Company will be there. We're not on school property this year, so that there's a lot more freedom for the vendors that can attend, and it should be a much more enjoyable night for parents as well.
And then other than that, we have a couple of post-festival activities, I guess you could say. So September 4th, we kind of have a best of showcase concert at Navy Pier, where it's just a selection of bands from the festival that get to perform at this other concert.
Every time that, and this is a thing that we as a festival are working on, every time we say band, we mean artists. So like this also includes solo performers. And like if you're a duet, like it's not just traditional rock band. So every time we say band right now, please know that we're also talking about you.
Yeah, thanks for that clarification, Michael. Yeah, soloists definitely very welcome to apply, and any other musical act really. And then lastly, we got the showcase concert at Ravinia Festival, which is an opportunity for our winners. So we don't know the date for that, but we're going to feature our previous year winners, Summer League. And then if you win the festival, that's an opportunity that can get set up for you for the next year.
And the Ravinia concert, just to give some perspective, for those of you who are local, Ravinia Festival is probably very familiar. If you don't know about Ravinia, or you don't know much about it, it is the world's oldest outdoor music pavilion. It seats thousands of people in their covered pavilion, and then many more thousands out on the lawn. And last year, Summer Drive, who were our 2021 and then ended up actually also being our 2022 grand champions, were selected by Ravinia to showcase there. And there were 8,000 people in the park the night that they played. And I can tell you for a fact, people were literally facing the pavilion out on the lawn. And when Summer Drive was playing, they literally, thousands of people were turning their seats to face the carousel stage. It was just an awesome night. And that's a one-off kind of thing. So this year, Summer League, who were our runners-up last year, will be performing at Ravinia. And then next year, one of our finalist bands will be selected as well.
Mm-hmm. And sorry, I misspoke earlier. Our champions last year were Summer Drive, and the reason I got them confused because they both have Summer in their name, but they did Ravinia the previous year since they were also won the year before. So that's why Summer League, the runners up, are doing it this year. And then lastly, something exciting coming this year. It's still a little bit up in the air, trying to secure funding and finishing planning this, but we are possibly going to host a separate songwriter competition in the fall. So just keep your ears open for information about that. But that would be a separate kind of mini competition that we would start up this year if we can make that happen.
Yeah, and then lastly, and Kevin, I can take this one. We also do a satellite series at Harry Carey's Tavern at Navy Pier. That's between Memorial Day and Labor Day. That should actually be, that's not August 2nd. I think it's August 30th or something. The last Wednesday in August. Those are paid performance gigs. It's not a huge, paycheck. Thank you. It is $250 a night for a 2-night set. So if you're interested in something like that, that is for 21 plus performers. So if you're under 21, hopefully we'll be doing this for many years and you can hit us up later. And did we talk about the additional clinics in the fall? Okay. Yes.
No, do you want to talk about that, Nick?
Yeah, so we can just quickly touch on that. This is tentative. We're hoping to do some in-person or possibly virtual clinics on different topics in the music industry, just to add to the educational value. And
I can talk about that for a moment. Yeah. So similar to this, where we want you to get progress in your application writing, and not just for this festival, but in general, and that's going to be a lot of what we cover. We also want to give you clinics on how to be a lead singer in a band while jumping around and not losing pitch, how to arrange for an original song studio version versus a live version, things that help you grow as a musician more than just how to apply for an event. So that's what the future clinics are kind of looking at, things along those lines.
And I will say too, on the solo performer front, if you are concerned, am I going to do well in a battle of the bands? Am I going to get in? Last year, I'm pretty sure that almost every solo performer, and possibly every solo performer that applied, got in some way as a competitor or a showcase artist, which means the solo performers who were selected to showcase and not compete beat a large number of bands to get into the festival. It's admittedly more challenging as a solo performer, I think, for many obvious reasons. And we are in the works of hopefully creating a entirely separate solo songwriter competition, which would also be open to musicians up to 24 years. So that's just a teaser of what's to come. We may eventually have that be just for solo performers and the music festival just for bands, but for the time being, we're staying on track with what we've done in the past. Now, in terms of best practices for online applications, some of this definitely applies to applications in general. This is art festivals, comedy festivals, theater festivals, any kind of festival that's reviewing your application. Some of this too, I think, is relevant for college applications and job applications. First and foremost, research the event or the festival that you're applying to. Google them, look them up, see what their values are, and try to incorporate some of that language. If it's things that the festival or the company is interested in, knowing that you are also interested in those things is going to be appealing on some level. And I'll jump ahead to the very last point, which is be genuine. Don't BS, but if it's something that's authentic to you, definitely include it and touch on those points. Also, do your homework on who's participated, who's competed. I'd even say look at who's won in the past. Now, in our case, the judges are constantly changing. So a band that wins one year or a solo performer that wins one year, it's not necessarily an indication of who's going to win in future years because the judges are constantly cycling. And also the judges are different on the finale from the Fridays. There's a little bit of overlap, but I'd say the majority of judges are usually fresh ears. So it's really anybody's game. But doing that gives you a sense of where you may land. And like I said before, don't be discouraged if you don't think you fit. And if you're concerned, mention it in the notes in your application, address why you think you might be considered to not be a good fit, and then make the case for why you would be. Definitely communicate with the event and the festival. Ask good questions if you have them, but try to find the answers first. We do have an FAQ, which does need to be updated, but it's got a lot of information. It's on our website. Nothing is more time consuming than answering questions which are easily found on our website or elsewhere. Now, that said, if you can't find it easily, let us know, and we will work to fix that. But reach out if you have questions. It never hurts to ask questions. Feel free to poke around any application before you apply. I've applied to a bunch of comedy festivals and other events. I always snoop the application and try to get as far as I can into it, so that when I actually sit down to do it, I'm prepared, because it's so frustrating to sit down and think you have, time to do an application, and then they ask you for stuff that you just don't have or you didn't know you needed. So again, that's part of the reason why we're doing this virtual tour. Cannot stress this enough. Save your work in a separate document as you go. I learned that the hard way applying to comedy festivals, having a computer crash or a form fail or hitting submit, and it just spins and spins and spins, and all of that work is lost. It's a little extra time and it's a little irritating. However, not only will you have that if there is a crash, and it does happen occasionally, it's a great place to start next year. So chances are any event like ours, the application is going to change a little bit, but not too much. You have a document now that you can literally copy and paste a whole bunch of stuff and tweak and adjust as you go. Yes.
Also, the things that are on our applications, you're going to see everywhere. So like band statement is something that you should, or artist statement is something that you should really consider, just making sure it's like, what's the mission? What's the goal for your band? Accolades, something that you should know about yourself and your band. Just kind of have that running list, so that way when you do things like this, it's easily accessible and you're not wasting your own time.
And it's stuff that you can use in a press kit. It should be very easy to just copy and paste your bio and maybe adjust it. You don't want to be in a situation where you're sitting and spending an hour or even 10 or 15 or 20 minutes trying to write a good bio. Have that in a separate document ready to go. Also, kind of a no-brainer, not to sound like your parents, but obviously your social media is out there, and just know there's always a chance that the people who are reviewing your application for a job or college or the Bitter Jester Music Festival may see your social media. And is that a good thing or a bad thing? You can interpret what those mean. And then applying the first time, in any case, especially with festivals that are constantly cycling through artists, you're establishing a relationship with the entity. And the next time, regardless of whether or not you got in previously, they'll know your name, they'll recognize you and your growth, and in our case, the music. So in terms of how the applications are judged, which is separate from how the competitors are judged on the nights of the competitions, which goes much more in depth on the music and the production side of things, every single application is reviewed by a panel of festival producers and department heads. We all meet, and the first thing that is the most important is the music. So hands down, that is the thing that will make or break, whether or not you get into one of these three buckets. So we make different folders: must have, maybe, and not this year. And these are constantly in flux. And, last year, the very last band to submit their application, which was at like 11:59 p.m., got into the festival, and the applications had been open for months. So they effectively bumped someone out because they were that good. But we didn't spend 30 seconds on that last application. We literally spend the exact same amount of time on the first few, the middle few, and the last few. And the written materials, and we do ask questions, we want your bio and other things that you explain. They're important. They're definitely important, but they are generally secondary to the music. Where it tends to bump you over or under is when we have a ton of submissions And this maybe folder is overloaded. And we know that some of the maybes are going to go into the must-have folder, which eventually gets locked. And a lot of them go into the not this year folder because we just don't have space, not because they're terrible to listen to. And when everything is equal, and it's like we've got apples to apples and apples to aircraft because they're totally different, that's where the written materials do start to play more of a role. And all of the supporting materials are looked at. So like we'll look through your photos. We're not picking bands based on the way that you look or the way that you dress. But, you know, again, when we have to start going into these second and third tiers to make the difficult decisions, we start to take everything into consideration: social media, your images, your logos, all that kind of stuff. In terms of aging out and seniority, this is a small part of the conversation. It doesn't often come up, but it will come up in the conversation again when we're really getting down to the nuts and bolts. Our event has an age out, obviously, if more than half the band is over 21. And so if this is your last time applying, your last shot at being in Bitter Jester, you will probably get that proverbial extra point. I'm not going to lie. It's not going to make or break the application. It may not be the thing that gets you in, but again, all things being equal, we love to have bands come back again. So that does enter into the conversation. And then, I said this before, but every application is reviewed equally. And we do spend a lot of time. We even go back into that not this year folder, and we will re-listen to bands. We also keep applications forever, and we'll go back to previous applications and compare how you sound this year compared to last year. And if there's been no growth, or if you submit the same songs over again, that's probably not necessarily going to work, in your favor. In terms of how many applicants are accepted, we take 24 artists into the competition. We also take multiple non-competing artists. So these are bands and solo performers that didn't get into the competition, but we want to feature them at the festival. And we'll take up to 8 showcase bands or solo artists, and then up to 4 specifically solo performers. So guaranteed at a minimum, there will be 4 solo performers. And again, last year, I think we had like 12 or something like that. And this isn't on the slide, but last year we turned away 60% of our applications, just to give you a sense of perspective. So it is competitive. It's getting harder, and that's one of the reasons why we wanted to give you this insight. So next up, we're just going to I want to try to fly through this. I wanted to show you all what the application looks like. You go to bitterjestermusic.org, or there'll be links on our Instagram, and you are going to see this application. So basically, we've got just the basics of the dates, the age requirement as a reminder, a beautiful photo of last year's MVP winners. This link here will take you to a page where we just extracted kind of the most important info and some other links. So that's just there as a reference. First thing you do is you enter your band's name, you type your email address. I'm going to copy that to cheat. I'm going to write my own name here, and then I select what I am. If I'm a musician, a parent, or other. In this case, why not? I'll select other. And then heard about from Bitter Jester from myself in this case. Type in whatever other artists you think might be interested. We do try to reach out to them and communicate with them. In terms of the age limit, yes, at least half of us are 21 or younger right now. If you click no, this is going to take you to just another page, and you'll get a message just saying that we don't accept bands into the festival, but it talks about that Harry Carey's opportunity. Type in the code, and then on to part 2. Sometimes it asks you to do this twice, and I don't know why. So the second part of the application is where we really get into it. Again, we've got all the dates here for your reference. First Bank of Highland Park provides all the cash for the prizes. I'm going to select that nobody is over 24. I'm going to retype my band's name here. And this is just because this data is going into a separate database for us. I think I did band name test and then my email address. This gives you a heads up of what you need to submit. So you need contact information for every performer plus an emergency contact, 2 music samples, a high-res photo of your band, a stage plot, and your application fee. It gives you the option if you'd like to go to our FAQ. If you select yes, this will pop up and this takes you to a different link. For right now, I'll select no. And then on to band info, some beautiful posters from last year. Here, we just want to get a sense of how long you've been playing. You can select anything. The only additional information you'll need to provide if you select 1 year, or sorry, if you select less than 1 year, it'll ask you to clarify. This is where people will write, we as musicians, we've been playing for 5 years, but as a band, we only started playing last week. You know, just stuff like that is it's just more interesting than anything for us. So I'll select 1 year. This is just an opportunity for you to tell us if you've applied before and how many times. This is where you need to write your lovely 50-word bio. When I'm doing tests on the application, this is the most annoying part. You have, I think, a bandwidth of about 45 to 60 words, but aim for 50. Select yes, type your URL in there, your band Instagram. And then if you don't have these, just type none. Now, we'll talk more in depth about the bio here and the short statement expressing why you'd like to participate after we get through this. But you basically tell us why you would like to be in the festival, give us any awards or accolades, and then goofy stuff that you might want to share. This will sometimes, I'd say oftentimes, gets incorporated into your introduction as a band. So just know that everything you put here could get shared. But I love goofy stuff. I love knowing if, you know, performers can complete a Rubik's Cube or whatever it might be. I just think that stuff is cool to know.
When Ken and I were applying to this, our fun fact was consistently that our saxophone player named Sean will never get a girlfriend. And that continued to be like the identity of our band. And we just kind of bullied him on stage. That's the entire persona of our event when we were there.
Yeah, don't bully your bandmates on stage though. But if some of you have met Sean, he can take it. Tell us how you'll promote the concert or festival. This is just, you know, poster, whatever you think you would be doing to help get the word out. If you have CDs or merch for sale, you select that here. We definitely encourage you to sell merch. Next is onto performer information. This is undoubtedly the part that's going to take you the most amount of time if you have a lot of band members. For tonight, I'm just going to select solo performers, so we only have to do this once. But if you select more than 8, it's going to ask you how many people you have, and then you have to fill out the same information for every single person. So again, this is where saving your info in another document is just going to save you time because you can start to copy and paste. But for tonight, I will do solo performer.
And for this page, you really want to make sure you don't go backwards. I was playing around with the application earlier, and I found out like if you change the number of people in your band while you're filling out this page, it might delete a bunch of stuff. So again, just important to save your details in another, like a Word document or a Google Doc or something, and try not to go backwards on anything on the application if you can.
Yeah, so if you are in a case where you selected 7 and you realize you have 8 people, submit your 7 and then email us separately and just say, I forgot someone. And then we'll make fun of you because how could you forget someone in your band?
Forgot someone named Sean.
Yeah. We ask for your t-shirt size because we really strive to get t-shirt sponsors so that every single performer in the festival is going to get a shirt. For today, I'm from California. Let's do Los Angeles. If you represent a second state or city, select yes, and then you just have to answer this, again. Sometimes people live in Highland Park and go to college in another city. So we just like to keep that in mind because we send out press releases, and we also like to track the data of where people are coming from and where they're, what they're representing. Select the instrument or instruments that you play. I'm going to be an overachiever and I'm going to do everything, including backing vocals, but drums. And then I'm also going to add harmonica, because why not? I'm just copying and pasting here. So personal Instagram, personal TikTok, emergency contact, first and last name, their relationship, their email address, and their phone number. And then you do that for all of your performers, then on to scheduling. This is basically going to ask you your preferred availability. We always love it when bands and solo performers are available on every night, because it just makes scheduling a breeze. Of course, that isn't usually the case. So I'm going to select that, Friday, June 9th would be my ideal date. Saturday, the 10th would be my second choice. And then select all dates that the band is not available. Now, this is not an option if we're available every night. That goes away. So if you select we're not available for all those dates, it's going to assume that you are not available for all those dates and ask you which dates those are. Do your best to not accidentally put the same information down here. It's just, it kind of messes up our scheduling software. I'll try to catch that and ask, if there's a problem. But in this case, let's say I'm only not available June 2nd. June 3rd is not identified. What that tells us is we know your first choice, your second choice, the one date that you're definitely not available, and this effectively becomes your third choice. But we will always, if you get selected, reach out to say, hey, we know that this wasn't your first or second choice. Are you in fact okay to be scheduled on this day? And I would say 98% of the time you're going to get your first or second choice. We rarely have to dip into the third choice, but having that information is really valuable for us. So don't just mark that as not available unless you actually are not available. Special scheduling requests. This is a great place for you to write down that you have friends in another band that's competing, or that's applying, I should say. And if they end up competing, you don't want to compete against them, or maybe you do want to compete against them, just anything that's scheduling related. And also, you may not know your full schedule. Just give us as much information as you can here. And again, we do really try to honor that as much as possible.
For the music sample part, as we mentioned, this is definitely the most important part of the application. So most importantly, you're just going to want to submit your best songs. You have 2 songs to submit here. However, there's a kind of inside scoop we're giving everyone here today. We have noticed as the quality of our applications have gotten better and better, it has gotten to a point where sometimes, if a band submits 2 studio produced tracks, they can be so good and so polished that we sometimes don't really know how the band will sound live. So I would recommend, unless the quality of the song is a lot worse, try to submit 1 studio or demo recording and then 1 live recording. And that live recording, it could be from a gig, but it could even be something as simple as a phone recording of a rehearsal or whatever, as long as the audio quality is not completely terrible. Make sure your phone isn't right next to the drums and completely distorting.
Can I say a quick thing, Kev, really quick?
Yeah.
Isaac, it's a really good question. What if your song has profanity? We're okay with profanity on the applications, but when we go to the live events, we're at Highland Park, downtown Highland Park with families, and we're family friendly. So any type of censoring to your music, that you can make that on your own. But for as long as you acknowledge that in your application, saying, hey, I know I have profanity in my tracks, I won't do this live, we're okay with that.
Mm-hmm. And there's even a little box where underneath these you can kind of talk about how you're going to adapt your songs. And really the purpose of that is just to reassure us that you've thought about this and that you can make your stuff family friendly enough. And as long as you address that, then we'll be good there.
Hey, Kevin, really quick, the screen share is going to break just for a second. I have to find a song to upload, so just keep talking, but we're going to lose the screen share just for a minute.
Cool, no worries. Another thing too, if you have original songs, it's always good to submit at least 1 out of the 2, just because that's going to give us a clearer sense of how your band sounds and your identity. So cover songs are totally fine, but if possible, try to not submit 2 cover songs. That's pretty much it for the music application. Like priority 1 is definitely the quality and just making sure like your music submissions are as good as possible. Then if you can give us some sense of how you sound live, whether that's like a live recording or a rehearsal recording, that also helps, but totally not necessary.
And then originals, covers doesn't matter. If it's an original, we're going to ask. If it's not an original and you say no, then it'll just ask you to clarify and you write, the artist's name. And then this actually goes into our software and it will rename the file that you upload to give us the name of the song. It'll say cover and then who the artist is. If you select yes, it'll, we assume it's an original. So for the purposes of that, I will select yes on both.
Kevin, really quickly, can you talk about Rachel's question? Because it's a good one. Mm-hmm. As a solo artist, should I submit a song that's fully produced, even though I'm not going to be like I won't be performing with it fully produced and there's a stripped down version?
I would say if that's your best song overall, definitely submit that. That is totally fine. If you can use like your second song submission to do a to show more of your live vibe of something that's just you solo, that would be good. But if what you have that's really the best thing to submit is 2 fully produced tracks, that's totally fine. You don't necessarily have to have the same iteration of the band in the demo tracks as you're going to plan.
Just address it. There's a place for you to say anything else, any other information that we might need to know. Now I'm goofing around here. Obviously, like Michael said, just all you need to say is I have radio friendly versions of my music. I mean, you don't need to really fill this box up. We do ask that you understand that if you swear during the live show, you will be immediately disqualified. You have 2 options. The first is, yes, I got the message. And the second is, I'm looking forward to being disqualified this summer. If you select that, the application ends. So it just says, unfortunately, this is the wrong answer. Please try again. And then you select yes. If you have other music or videos online, we only are going to be judging your 2 uploaded tracks, right? But if you want to share other music, we'll probably check it out. And this is a great place too if you've got music videos, select yes, type the URLs in there or hit no. And then the photo is what we use to send to press. We use it on all of our own marketing materials. We really stress this high resolution thing, and you have to hit that you understand. It doesn't prevent people from uploading really low res crappy photos. What I will say is high res means when you zoom in, it doesn't get all digitally and pixelated. You can generally tell based on the file size of the photo. If it's more than a few megabytes, you're probably good. If it's a file that's a couple of kilobytes or 60 kilobytes, it's probably not, I'm almost guarantee you it's not good. So just Google how to, fix that. And the other thing too is while the photos don't play a part in who we select, it says a lot about, your band, and it does tend to look a little wonky when you've got really cool pictures and then one that's just like they sort of phoned it in. So send a good picture, even if it means taking a little bit of extra time, to do it. So I'm going to upload my own headshot there. You do not need a logo. We will incorporate it into our marketing if you have it. No worries. Next, you're going to upload your stage plot, which essentially is just a bird's eye drawing of your band setup, and we give that to the audio crew. This is very important. If you hit yes, you download this. If you hit no, that just goes away. You're going to upload your stage plot. I upload to my picture. This is where you give us any special audio requests. Any other festivals or music teachers are basically people that might want to know about this. And then you basically sign, pay your application fee and hit submit. So,
and one more thing for the special audio requests. If you plan to use any sort of backing track during your live show, please let us know as part of the application, since that's going to be important in terms of making sure we have stuff set up for you when you play live, and make sure that we can accommodate that.
That's my signature. Application fee, it's $35 plus a $2 processing fee for solo performers. It's $50 for bands. This will go up by $10 after the early deadline. So if you want to save $10, get your applications in early. PayPal if you have an account, or a debit or credit card. So that's the application. In terms of how to stand out, definitely don't phone in the written portion or treat it as a throwaway. It is important and it factors in, and we do read all of it. Please write your bios in the third person. That's generally what most festivals will ask for. That means you're talking about yourself as if you're a narrator and not saying, I do this or we do this.
Exit 122 has won this. Exit 122 will be pursuing this event, that kind of stuff.
And we'll show some examples here in a minute of good and bad bios and statements. Overall, tell us something we don't already know. Think about the purpose of what you're saying and why you're saying it. And are there more meaningful or impactful ways to do it? Again, it just goes back to don't phone it in, and make it clear that you care. The way that you write and how you express your desire to participate is going to also reflect on what we imagine you'll be like in person. And if you phone it in, then, it starts to paint a picture that honestly may not be accurate. So just, take some time on this. And this is true today more than it ever was in the past. Just understand that you're competing for a spot with your entire application, and that the people who you're competing against to get into the festival want to get in just as much as you do, if not more than you do. And you can outshine them in your written portion. Tell your story. The note we have here is that if you can get the selection committee to be debating your music and also talking about your story and who you are, you're going to be memorable. And that memorable portion goes into when we have to go back into those other folders and make final decisions. So you want us to be talking about you, for better or for worse. It's the memorable portion is great. And then, tag us and other bands on social media. A lot of times bands don't get in, but they still come to the shows. So get that networking, going early. Let the festival know that you still care, and let the other performers know that you're involved in the festival. And, it's a great opportunity to bump into people and meet people. And then, of course, proofread. I think that kind of goes without saying. And then last but not least, above all, with everything, when you're deciding what music to submit, when you're looking at the photos that you want to send, and you can send in more than one, just be genuine. When you're doing your homework on us and thinking you're trying to write about things that we're going to care about, so long as it's genuine, that's awesome. Don't force it. And that goes, across the board, which is why we let, you should submit whatever music you want, regardless of lyrics. Now, some examples of good bios versus less than good bios. So these are some poorly written bios. These are all imaginary. This, for me, is an example of a bad bio. It's not bad necessarily to list the names of your performers, except that you're kind of wasting words. Generally, with the bands that we're showcasing, these are not famous people. These are not people where these names are going to necessarily register. I don't personally think you need to list out all of the names of your performers. I would rather that you take that space to say something interesting. And then, all of us love the adrenaline that the stage and crowd provide, love to rock out and have fun, and can't wait to perform. I read that and my first thought is, yeah, you and everybody else. How does that set you apart from any other, band? This is an example. This could all be read. Please don't write in all caps, because we just have to change it. It's hard to read. I get that this is clever. I personally find it a little annoying. We're known for destroying venues. Stuff like that may not be something that a venue wants. We're not a punk show. I think that'd be awesome for like a punk festival specifically. And even if you are known for that thing, maybe leave that out. And then, again, spelling and lots of exclamation points. It just doesn't look professional. This is an example where, again, it goes back to tell us something that we don't already know, and that is going to set you apart. People who've known each other for a while and decided to get together on a whim, it really doesn't sound professional. It sounds like you're not going to sound very good. And they have a wide range of influences. It's super vague, you know, and then write and play original music and play covers. Like, this is just a very vague general description. And if you try to remove yourself from what you know about your music and see this through the eyes of someone who's going to be reading this and deciding whether or not they even want to come to the festival, I don't think that's an example of a compellingly written bio that's going to make someone say, wow, I can't wait to hear example C. Now, on the good bio side, you know, 3-time Michigan State Fair winners, it's compelling. Rock and reggae quartet is very specific. Then they list influences. So this is hitting people. Oh, I like Red Hot Chili Peppers. I might like this band. Lively summer atmosphere. It sounds fun. Every Fluff Jams show is bound to be a new and exciting experience. It's just compelling, and it makes me want to go see this band. Example number 2, Ocean Salt is a metal band based in Crumb Cake, Kentucky. Like, that tells you so much. It could just be that one sentence and it's loaded. You know, this is a list of all the different kinds of venues that they've performed at, which says they get booked a lot. The trio is comparable, again, very specific examples here, which may appeal to people. And then, you know, their creative originals and cleverly crafted covers. This isn't necessarily super specific. It's just more interestingly written than we write and play original music and covers. It's just kind of eye-catching. And then a third example on the solo side, again, very descriptive immediately. I know exactly who this person is. And then prefers performing with just an acoustic guitar in his voice, playing music in an intimate way that truly allows you to just sit back and listen. It's just interesting, and it implies that some thought was given.
If you need inspiration for your bios, look under the artists that you listen to and that you want to sound like on Spotify, and use that as inspiration. I'm just saying that for the video because not everyone's going to see the chat.
So this is your band bio, and this will get copied and pasted into our, you know, online program and sometimes marketing materials. So this is literally your 50 words to present yourself to get people to come to the show. On the statement side, this is the statement about why you want to participate specifically in our event. And other festivals and organizations will ask you, like, why should we take you? So some less than impressive statement examples. Very short and uninteresting. I read this and I think, you know, maybe her dad submitted the application on her behalf. And again, looking to play original music in front of as many people as she can. How is that different from everybody else? Please, with the all caps, don't. Just please no. And then, you know, we'd like to participate because we love playing music live and seeing people have a good time. It's our favorite thing to do, and we hope we can make an impression on those seeing us live. It's repetitive, it's generic, and again, it doesn't set you apart. Now, some impressive statement examples. We've played a few shows locally and are looking to network with other musicians and gain exposure. I know that they know what our festival is about. We're currently well known in our region, but we'd love to expand our audience outside of Iowa. We've actually never had an Iowa band, so that kind of piques my interest. And also, it says that they know what our festival is all about. Plus, gaining experience from judges who actually know what they're talking about, even if we disagree, would be great. And we put on one hell of a live show. Example B, we're always looking to challenge ourselves as musicians, and we're always seeking out new opportunities to inspire other people. Being two young women in music, we often aren't taken seriously as others, which can be frustrating. We love an opportunity to prove our talent as musicians. I read that and I think it's very compelling. I want to help these people. And it's also a little bit of a throwdown, you know, it's like, give us this chance, we'll make you proud. And then example C, this is for, you know, returning bands. Our band has participated last year and it was an amazing experience. Several of us went to see Every Friday concert, and it was wonderful to hear and hang out with so many talented musicians. The feedback we got from the judges after each round genuinely made us think and helped us grow as a band. We factored a lot of it into our rehearsals. We hope to be able to showcase our growth this year and continue the evolution of our sound. I like this because, again, it's very specific. I assume they are being genuine about these things that they're saying. And they also are aware that they may not get in. And so they need to be proving not just that they're good, but that they've improved, even though they got in last year, because getting in is no guarantee you're going to get in again. So this example C really hits some very important points. But again, at the end of the day, the general gist here is like thoughtful on the right, very generic and boring on the left, and then make it your own. I need a break for my voice, Michael. Can you go over this stuff? I got to get some water.
Sure. Just go through open up all the bullet points and we'll talk about it. So we keep a really good log of everyone that's applied, and we really pay attention to a lot of growth. So for us, it's about building a connection with the festival. We oftentimes will have bands that apply, don't get in, apply the next year, become showcase bands, apply the next year, and then we've had bands that win because of all the feedback that we get. Also, recently we've been, if needed or if requested, if you don't get in, ask for feedback. Hey, thank you so much. I understand that I didn't get in. What kind of things can I do better in my application that would help me stand out? But if you're in this call, then I guess you're doing just that. If you reapply, please do not submit the same tracks, because if you think about it, that doesn't make sense to you. It doesn't make sense to us if you reapply with the same music that you didn't get in with the previous year. The people that apply the following year are getting better and better. So please make sure that if you don't get in, that you're taking the year to grow. Ask us, reach out to us in that off season, and then really just show us a different band in terms of how you've grown and how you've developed. So the road is not over, but yeah, we're all about building that relationship with you.
And what I would say there too is, we've accepted bands that have submitted one previous song and one new song. It's not the best, to do, but it's not going to be like a nail in the coffin. If you have to do that, again, just address it. If you're like, hey, we really, really tried to record new music, we just ran into problems, there were health issues or whatever it might be. And so it's like, it's a bummer, but we have to submit this song. It's still our best material. Just explain it. I think that will help. One question that people have asked is, is it okay if we submit music that Bitter Jester recorded last year as part of our submission this year? Absolutely. If you're proud of what you did at our festival, throw it back in our face. I mean, I think that's awesome. That happens occasionally, and it's like, oh, I recognize this because I heard it. I think that's that's really cool. Generally, and we're wrapping up here, how performers can help us. Again, Michael said this, write the dates of the festival down in your calendar, including dates of when we're going to be making announcements and when you said you'd be available. That's great because you can help us to hype that a little bit. It's also very challenging when we go to schedule and we have to eliminate bands because we've got 15 bands available on one night and only 2 bands available on another night. And this doesn't happen a lot, but it has happened where we have to go back into that maybe folder and swap a band out based purely on availability. So the more flexibility you can have, the better. And a lot of that comes down to, again, please write the dates of the festival down and the dates when you said you were available, and share that with your bandmates, because it's a lot of fun. And I don't mean that. It's a lot of fun to reach out to bands, say, congratulations, you got in the festival. This is your night. And they're like, oh, well, 4 of us aren't available. So to the best of your ability, if your availability changes, or if you're guessing on behalf of your band, if it changes, or if you find out new information later, reach out to us and let us know. We'll just update your application. So it just helps us on the scheduling end. And then, of course, if you get accepted, try to be flexible when it comes to time to actually schedule. It is a monstrous task to schedule 36 different artists on 4 different nights and make that all work. And 36 groups. So that could be, 100 musicians. It's a lot of work. So the more help you can give us there, the better. And then, of course, help spread the word. Post on social media that you applied. Be excited about that. Brag about it. Tell people about the event, and not just the applications, but coming out to the concerts. Like, we have such great bands and solo performers and different artists performing that we need you to come out to the shows. We're hoping with the Friday, Saturday schedule that bands traveling from out of town will take advantage of that. And if you're performing on Friday night, take advantage of the hotel deal that we have, stick around on Saturday, go to the clinic, meet the performers, and then go to the concert Saturday night. You're going to have so much fun. And it'll basically help to beef up that audience with more people that you want listening to your music that you're going to connect with. And then, of course, tag us on social media. We're on Instagram and Facebook. And that basically concludes the bulk of it. We will do a quick Q&A. If anybody has questions, feel free to unmute yourself or type questions in the chat. And
yeah, we've answered a lot of questions in the chat. So if you've been keeping up and your questions have been answered, by all means, if you feel like you're good, that's all fine. And actually, Nick, before we keep going, let's not stick on the Q&A page. Can you go to the next page for a moment? These are the industry advisors, and this is what we get help with. And this is the people that you'll have access to, not necessarily directly, but we can get help with. Heyman, who's on the call, is our artist management. He's a real human being in like the music industry who helps book bands and is a manager and like really knows what's going on. We have Lynn Norman Weiss, who helps with our media, radio, and broadcasting situation. Rob Tovar, who's helping us with the business and the creative development, and then Andres Tapi, who's our diversity, equity, and inclusion advisor. And all these people are helping us create the event. So I just wanted to put this out here before everyone left. And then one more page.
And actually, yeah, really quick too. I would be shocked if you don't meet Heyman at one of our events. He's basically, he moves in with us for the summer, for lack of a better word. He loves this event. He gives up vacations and hanging out with his friends to be there. He is such a huge mega proponent of just getting artists more exposure. He's a wealth of knowledge. He's a super nice guy. And he's in it for no reason other than he wants to share what he knows with people. Rob is someone you may also connect with. He's extremely eclectic and well-connected and has an amazing, weird resume that's all over the place. Former Marine, just really great guy. And then Lynn, you'll probably bump into. She has helped us to book a lot of bands on radio and TV. And then Andres is a city council member in Highland Park, just a super fan of the event, and already has favorites of bands that he's heard in the past. So feel free to already reach out to Heyman. He's on Instagram. He would be happy to take your direct messages.
And then here's our information, everyone. If you have any questions regarding the event, music at Bitter Jester is like the place to go to. If you have questions about judging, rubrics, anything, you can, and if you feel uncomfortable not knowing who the email is going to, you want to send an email directly to me. I'm at the education one. The Tseitlin is me and my last name. If you want to contact Kevin directly about any music related things. Isaac has asked so many questions, but if you have more questions on like what makes a good track, hey, will you listen to this and give me some feedback before I apply? Maybe Kevin will do it. Mm-hmm. He's certainly very good. And then if you have social media things, contact Courtney and Arden at the social media department. Help them help you and help us help you. So this is our contact info. And I wanted to stay on this page as we do our Q&A versus the other ones, if that's okay.
Mm-hmm. And just to start off the Q&A here, I just wanted to read one of Isaac's questions from the chat here, which is, I'm still not sure what makes one of our tracks a great one. We have very diverse tracks. Our Bitter Jester, are we looking for a creative take overall? So I would say yes. Like if you submit a track that's unique or that shows off your band's like genuine creative style, that is always great. So I would definitely encourage that. If you have something that's different about your band that sets you apart, that's great. Other than that, for the music submissions, the biggest thing is just like the technical performance quality. So stuff like, how in tune and in time are the vocals? Is there a good sense of groove? And just basic stuff like that.
Michael, any kind of general questions that people were asking that should be set out?
So Flannel Folk asked a very good question in regards to age. I believe our top age still is 26. So
24.
24. So Flannel Folk, if they're turning 25, but they're 24 when you submit the application, that is the oldest they can be. So that is fine as long as you turn in the application before June, which you'll have to get into the festival.
Before the birthday, you mean?
So seems like this will be the final year for that. Yeah, exactly. Oh, we didn't talk about that, but yeah, please follow us on social media. I think the biggest question has been everything that we've kind of answered. Whenever there is a question like for the good of the group, we've kind of asked it out loud, but please continue to ask questions now. That helps future people, even if you think it may not be beneficial, it might be, because if you're thinking it, odds are someone else is thinking it.
One question that comes up is, do we have to perform on more than one preliminary concert? And the answer is no. We have 24 competition bands that spread out evenly over the 4, and they are independent. So it's different judges, different competition. The outcome might be different if you performed on another night. So there's a bit of a randomness to it, which I like because it makes it more of a variety show, and every night is completely different. And like I said before, the judges are different too. So we have had many, and I mean many wild card bands, meaning they did not win their Friday, but they got selected as a wild card, including solo performers, who go on to the finale and actually not only beat a band that had beaten them on their Friday, because the judges are different and it's a different night, and you have good shows and bad shows. We've had a lot of wildcard bands go on to win the entire competition. I think it's happened 5 or 6 times out of the 16 that we've been doing this. Another question that comes up is why, I guess the question is, can I reapply if I've competed or if I've won? And yes, absolutely. Grand champion bands and runner-up bands and third place honorable mention, bands, they are all fighting for that spot. And it's actually historically been the case that a grand champion will get knocked down a peg and become a runner-up. It's also been the case that a runner-up will become a grand champion and then retire from the competition. So that does happen quite a bit. It was actually I won't say a fluke, but it was not the norm to have a band win 2 years in a row. That's happened a few times, but it's very, very rare. Oh, yes. Kevin just texted me. One other thing that's new this year, if you make it to the grand finale, because we're no longer paired with the fireworks on the 4th of July, we are actually hoping to extend the set length for the finale bands from 20 minutes to 30 minutes, which will make a huge difference. So on the preliminary Friday and Saturdays, you'll have around 25 minutes. We're not sticklers on time, somewhere between 20 and 30. Don't go over 30. For the finale, if you're a showcase band, I believe it's 20 minutes. And if you are in the competition, it will be a full 30. Yeah, sure. Absolutely. Yeah. Feel free to chime in with a question.
I just had a question. Also, just kind of further add on that question that I said a while ago. The tracks that I submitted last year, that we submitted actually last year, I believed were the best. Obviously, I really I did receive the email and I fully understood. We're always writing new material and all that stuff, but I think it's very kind of subjective for me to sometimes say what's the best, because should we look at Spotify percentage of what track gets listened to the most, or overall live reaction to song, because sometimes you play a song live that doesn't work, but sometimes people like it more on Spotify.
Yeah. I know Kevin's going to have some thoughts on this, and Michael will too. For me, if I were in your position, especially if if you're reapplying and you didn't get in on a previous year, I think there's definitely going to be an element of trying to send in what you think the ears that are doing the judging are going to like. But you should be authentic to yourself. If it's a song that you are super proud of, that's the song you should be submitting. Even if the quality isn't the greatest, if it's an iPhone audio, if it's just there's an amazing section, what I think you can do is in the notes section where you can write any other special requests or whatever, if you're submitting a song and there's a moment in that song that you really want the judges to listen to, don't be afraid to say, hey, be sure to check out 307 to 337 because blah, blah, blah happened. I think draw attention to the things that you like about your music. And I don't know, Kevin, do you have other thoughts on, because the fact is it is subjective, right? This is a judged event. we're not able to take every band. There's a lot of great bands that go into the not this year category. And some of that may be for reasons that, you know, people disagree with. And that, you know, we have the wild cards as part of this process because we don't always agree with the judges, frankly. And the judges have a tough job. And the same is true for the, you know, for the pre-selection people. So I don't know, Kevin and Michael, can you talk maybe a little bit more about what we are listening for in terms of what makes a quote unquote good or a quote unquote bad music submission in terms of getting into the competition or getting in as a showcase?
Kevin, let me do the obvious one. I got the obvious one. I think technical proficiency, like making sure that your song is tight, everything like feels good. There's no like inaccuracies in rhythm, nothing out of tune, and just like overall that whole package is there musically. That's the obvious one, and I'll let Kevin do the hard one.
Yeah, I think a lot of it really just does come down to deciding what tracks are just the best representation of what sound your band is going for. But I'll throw in something that's a lot more specific too, which is you probably don't want to submit too slow songs. One thing we've seen in the past is like the slower songs are sometimes a lot harder to lock in rhythmically, just because there's like so much more space between the notes. So I have seen that, like if you're trying to choose between something that's a little bit more high energy and then something that's like a lot slower, you might want to choose a higher energy track, just because it's a little bit easier to make that sound good in terms of performing. Not to say that slow songs are bad. I mean, they're definitely great, but try to give us a range a little bit between your two submitted songs as well.
Thank you. That's very helpful actually, because I mean, that's kind of what I was one of my questions as well that I had with submitting. But yeah, no. Hopefully, with the new submissions, they fit those requirements as well. And
Yeah.
obviously, with the one that like that we feel proud of. I mean, I think we're always feel proud of our songs. So, oh, by the way, I'm Isaac from Rotting King.
Oh, nice. Good to meet you. Yeah, and that was a great question. I texted Michael, like I appreciate, you know, it's also kind of a risky question to ask because, you know, you're putting yourself out there. And it's good to put us, you know, on the spot to defend what we're listening for. You know, we want good music. We want good performances in the festival. It's the reason why we're hoping that bands will take us up on the suggestion of, you know, a produced track and a live track just to show us what we're going to get live, because it can often be very different. And there is a difference between enthusiasm and energy and technical proficiency. You know, don't submit a produced track where you're playing wrong notes and the tempo is all messed up. But if it's a live show, I mean, look, we're all musicians. We've all been to concerts. Professional bands make mistakes. You get excited, things are not going to be perfect, but if we hear a crowd cheering, like that also, you know, says part of the story. But it goes back to Kevin with the variety, right? A slow song and a fast song, or an original and a cover, those are great because it shows that you have some range, and that's also something to, you know, to consider. And then, you know, if you're not looking at the chat, what Courtney said in terms of Spotify streams too, I think is really thoughtful. The other thing I'll say too is, if your songs are 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 minutes long, it's fine to submit, address it in the notes. And I would say, give us some sections to listen to. We're not going to listen to 9-minute songs. You know, we get dozens and dozens and dozens of submissions. You multiply that out times, you know, 3 to 4 minutes per song times 2 songs. It's hours and hours of listening, just pure listening. We will always listen to a track all the way through up to about 3 or 4 minutes. Over 4 minutes, we're going to stop it. So if you submit a 6-minute song because you can't edit it or that's your best material, just give us sections to listen to, or understand that we're only going to listen to the first 3 or 4 minutes, and we'll get the point.
Thank you.
Everyone, thank you so much. And this has been a super awesome turnout for our first clinic. And I hope that this is like a start of a rise of things for us. Thank you so much for taking your time and being here with us. If you want to hang around, we'll stay here for a few more minutes. We can talk to you one-on-one. We'd be happy to do that. But thank you for your time.